Welcome back to the Morning Show here on the Rise News. I am Adesua Omorwan.
And I'm Rufai Osini.
Nigeria in recent times has witnessed an unprecedented level of security. Now, this has made threat to national security a major issue for the government and has prompted an increased allocation of the national budget to security.
With the lingering security challenges across the country and the federal government's war against it, the question that bothers a lot of Nigerians today is the security of lives and property. Is it achievable?
A great question there. Well, to look at this issue of the federal government's war against insecurity is Ayo Lijadu, a member of Kowa Party and former presidential aspirant, as well as Lagos East senatorial candidate of the party in the 2019 general elections. He's also an actor. He's presently a regular feature in the popular television drama series Tinsel, where he plays the character of Christopher St. John.
Well, before we get started, let's see this comment on social media by Ayo Lijadu.
The way things have been going on in this country makes one to believe that one is living in some kind of animal farm, where some people are more equal than others. Does the name Garus Gololo ring a bell? Garus Gololo. That is the chairman of the Benue State Miyetti Allah Cattle Breeders Association. This man claimed in some recent BBC Pidgin interview that they were responsible for the killings in Benue. Why? Ostensibly, according to him, because their 1,000 cattle were stolen by these people, which was the reason why they went on an orgy of bloodletting. And you know what? This man, Garus Gololo, is still walking free in spite of that open public confession. And you wonder, do we have a government in place? A sitting government in place? What the world, Nigerians, are expecting of this government is that by now, Garus Gololo and the entire membership of the Miyetti Allah Cattle Breeders Association should have been in custody by now, answering to their hand in all the killings that have been reported so far as it concerns the cattle breeders. As it concerns the Fulani herdsmen in the middle belt of this country and in other states of the nation. But no, they are still...
Ayo Lijadu, he joins us now in the studio. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being here, Ayo Lijadu. I liked the animal farm analogy. We all remember the boisterous activities of Napoleon and some other character. George Orwell that wrote that Animal Farm. Yeah. It was a direct replica of what was happening in the Soviet Union back in the days. Is the Animal Farm apt for what is happening in Nigeria? Only to think Nnamdi Kanu talked about the zoo not quite long. And the president's wife also talked about the hyena and other forms of animals. Is that apt for what is happening?
Yeah, it's obviously very, very apt. I mean, from what you played, incidentally, that video was done last year, over a year ago, about a year ago. And the circumstances of which I talked about then are still very prevalent right now in terms of this issue of the animal farm situation, whereby some elements in our society are deemed to be above the law and have been treated and continue to be treated with kid gloves by the government that is constitutionally responsible for keeping law and order, maintaining law and order. They are charged under the Constitution to make safety of lives and property of the citizens the purpose of government. That is what the Constitution says. But have they been, I'm talking about the leadership of the APC, I'm talking about the president of the country, who is the #1 chief security officer of the state. Has he been living up to his responsibility to ensure that every life in Nigeria is safe from molestation, from attack, from violence, from whatever quarters, either by individuals or groups? So yes, we still have this animal farm situation in the country because some people are deemed to be above the law.
No, but some people will argue that this is not new. Has the country not always been divided along ethnic and religious lines? It would seem as if whoever is in power, his people, tend to beat the drums of war. Whether it's the Southwest or the Southeast or the Northeast or the Northwest, it's the same thing. So some people will say, is this really new? Or are we just exaggerating?
This narrative, this kind of narrative comes up every time, especially in the lifespan of this present government. When strident voices come out to criticize, the extreme violence that are being visited all over the country by a section of the populace. And then the narrative comes, oh, insecurity has always been there. This has always been there. Yes, there's no country that there's no insecurity issues. No country in the world. So yes, Nigeria has, been experiencing insecurity in various forms, under various governments, under various leaders. But never in the life of this nation have we witnessed the humongous, level to which this insecurity, has risen and traceable to a particular ethnic group. And I'm talking about the Fulani herdsmen. I am not one to be hypocritical in naming or many people when they have to come to the stage in front of the media, like to what's that expression now? When you
sort of vilify a certain.
No, to downplay issues rather than go straight to the point. We don't want to say, oh, it is Fulani herdsmen.
You're calling a spade a spade.
Yes, let's call a spade a spade.
A lot of people are going to tell you that that's quite very contentious. And you don't have facts to that effect. You cannot verify. Herdsmen can be herdsmen across board. You sectionalize their particular, you can have a Yoruba headsman. You can have an Igbo headsman. You can have all sorts. But my question to you is, you said we've never had it this bad. Yeah, but let's start to talk solutions. The offshoot of what happened after the Civil War, there was mass armed robbery in the 70s that was stemmed by Gowon. In the 80s, when the economy failed, 81, 83, we had mass armed robbery that led to the rise of Lawrence Majakwanini and the likes of those like that, the Metisani riots and things like that. But these things were stemmed. But it looks as though this insurgency and insecurity has gone on for too long. Since the killing of Yusuf Mohammed in about 2000, in the early 2000s, it's been a slippery slope since then. What are the solutions?
The solutions lie with the government. The government, people say, that next to God, it is government. That tells us the enormous amount of power that is at the behest of government. So the solution is with government. Anyone that has taken the mantle of leadership, especially as the president, commander-in-chief of the armed forces, that person has at his disposal every resources of power to deal with whatever issues of insecurity. So,
the president has done his best. I mean, he said such service chiefs. He's changed a couple of service chiefs, you know, till we got to Buratai. We've gone through a full hog of service chiefs since the time of Goodluck Jonathan till now, from Kenneth Miniman now to Buratai and all of that.
I beg to disagree.
But
the president has not done a fraction of what he's capable of doing.
What is he capable of doing?
I will give you an example. The tape that we just saw, that I brought out the issue of the Miyetti Allah chairman by name Garus Gololo, who in an interview on BBC claimed that they did this because of this. So that was taking responsibility.
But you're a private citizen. You can petition the government. You can start a petition. You can even take the case to court. You're a private citizen. You have a right.
You are asking for solution.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, the solution is not in me as a private citizen to deal with a criminal who came publicly to accept that they were responsible for the murder, for the mayhem, for the bloodletting. That man is still walking free till today. So when we do not punish offenses, criminality, in whatever guise, by whomsoever, and you who are in the position to do that, not me as a private citizen, you do not take the responsibility. We're talking about insecurity. A few days ago, or about a week or so ago, a group of people came out to threaten the nation, to threaten the federal government, to threaten the governors of the South, that if they do not reverse their decision to support the Ruga issue, that they should expect whatever is going to be the fallout of their rescinding their decision. Now, that is insurrection. That in itself is treasonable.
So
did the government, have those people been arrested up till now?
So how do you describe the security agencies' efforts in this fight so far? Because you seem to be putting the blame at the doorstep of the president. We do have security agencies in this country. How would you describe their role so far in all of this?
The security agencies are answerable to the president. And if I employ you in my company and I set certain responsibilities before you to carry out, and you don't carry out that responsibility, I won't sit back and be watching you. I will take action against you. I will either sack you, sanction you in one way or the other to know that I expect results from you. For example, the last Inspector General of Police, when the president eventually, after, outcry from the populace that he was nonchalant about the killings and all that, he traveled, I think, to Benue State or somewhere, and in the public, he said that he was not aware that the Inspector General of Police that he assigned to go
okay, just hold that thought. We've got a lot more to talk about. In case you're just joining us, we're talking about the war against insecurity in Nigeria. Ayo Lijadu, a member of COA parties and former presidential aspirant of that same political party. We'll come back and we'll talk some more about this and other issues in Nigeria.
Welcome back to the Morning Show here on the Rise News. Ayo Lijadu, a member of COA Party, is still with us in the studios. Talking about insecurity, a lot of people will say perhaps the ethnic connotation to what is ongoing now perhaps calls for more concerns than the act of insecurity itself. How do we de-escalate the tensions between ethnic groups in Nigeria at this time?
I think the principal personalities or actors in the polity that have the responsibility of de-escalating ethnic tension are the leaders themselves.
Again, back to the leaders?
Yes, because usually the leaders have always the penchant, the propensity to whip up ethnic, tribal, religious sentiments. The people are the pawns, have become the pawns in the hands of the leaders. So it devolves on the leaders. People, when we talk, when fingers are being pointed at the Fulani herdsmen, for example, people take up, arms and ask you, why should you profile an ethnic group by saying they are Fulani herdsmen? Let us call them criminals. But the people who have been at the receiving end continually of the mayhem, of the murders, killings, have always recognized their attackers as Fulani herdsmen. They have no other name to call their attackers or to recognize them. So if we want to de-escalate the ethnic profiling, it is the responsibility of the leaders of an ethnic group to call the criminals in their midst who are giving the ethnic nationality bad names, for example, and call them to order. But what do we have? We've been, rather than having, both at the leadership level, political leadership level, and other levels, these leaders, rather than, call their people to order, they've been given excuses and trying to justify the killings one way or the other. We've had the president, for example, say that the people should try to live in peace with their neighbors. How can you tell the people who have been at the receiving end of violence, of destruction? Many people have been, driven away from their homelands and have become refugees in their own country. How can you tell these people that they must tolerate?
I want to take you on this. Former President Olusegun Obasanjo wrote a letter recently.
Yeah.
And two parts of that letter he talked about that scared me. At first, he talked about Yugoslavia.
Okay.
I don't have a direct effect on Yugoslavia. But when he talked about the genocide in Rwanda, I've been to the Genocide Museum in Rwanda, and I had seen those skulls of heads that were hacked to death by machetes in the space of a month. Isn't that a rallying point for our leaders to fix whatever is going on now, just thinking of, Rwanda and the Intamawe?
Yeah, it is. It is. But rather than learn from history, rather than learn from the experiences of other countries that have, gone through this horrific genocidal situations that we're talking about, what are the leaders doing? Rather, they are continuing to formulate and wanting to execute policies that will make other citizens of the country feel that a certain ethnic group is being
How are they making this policy?
Okay, you have the Ruga policy. It's like in the life of this administration, it has all been about, pandering to the interests of the Fulani ethnic group. First, it started with grazing routes, then grazing colony, then there was a bill that was supposed to, meant to harness or appropriate rivers and their banks for the purpose of this same group. You have the Ruga colony. And then Of course, in recent times, we're hearing about e-registration of illegal immigrants. By his own admission, the president of the country said that it was not Nigerian Fulani people that were responsible for the mayhem.
But there have been talks about these people not being able to speak English.
Okay, so that's...
On some of them looking like Chadians and Nigerians.
That's exactly my point.
So the borders are porous.
So, exactly. It is the responsibility of... You cannot give an excuse that it is not Nigerians that are, responsible for the mayhem, but foreigners. Foreign, whether they are Chadians, Nigerians, but Fulani, whatever. It is the buck stops at your table as the chief security officer of the state to ensure that Nigeria is not invaded. We cannot be in our country and not have our security forces secure our borders to the extent that people will be hacked to death in their sleep.
And so far, we have relied on the stories of victims who say by the language their attackers speak, and that's why they name them Fulani.
Right.
And we've had this profiling of the ethnic Fulani.
Yeah.
Let me bring in the security agencies here again. Because some would argue that perhaps if the security agencies lived up to their responsibilities of arresting, investigating, we would know where these people are from, who they are, and we would begin to de-escalate this tension. Do you subscribe to that?
I subscribe absolutely to that. In fact, in one article I wrote last year, preferring, from my point of view, solutions to this violence, I said, first of all, number one, the federal government has to declare the Fulani headsmen terrorists, just like they declared IPOB, which has not been known for killings, just like they declared them terrorists. But up till now, the federal government has refused to declare the Fulani headsmen terrorists. I said the communities that have been invaded and the people displaced, some other people took those communities, took up residence in those communities. If you are serious about getting to the root of the invaders and arresting them and bringing them to justice, you ask those people who are occupying the communities how they got there, who gave them the permission to take up residence in those communities. So when there is no concrete action seen on the part of government to arrest criminals and bring them to justice, we can never get to the end of this issue. Because rather than getting to the end of it, you are giving more encouragement to the perpetrators because nobody has taken any action against them.
But with the recent, acknowledgement by the president, who said just days ago that, he restated that successes have been made in the fight against terrorism, but he acknowledges that there are emerging new threats to security, such as kidnapping and banditry, and that a lot is being done to tackle that. Don't you get any sense of reassurance that we're on top of this situation?
I'm sorry, but that, for me, is just playing to the gallery on the part of the president. This is the same president that a few days ago, said concerning the killings and the kidnappings that they were isolated cases. Isolated cases. The vice president in faraway Washington was quoted to have said that the killings and kidnappings were mostly exaggerated. Now, when this kind of, utterances are coming from the topmost number one and number two citizens who are supposed to be, taking responsibility. How can you take them seriously?
Was that an image making by the vice president? Because just recently on the condolence visit to Fasharanti, he did allude that the security situation has worsened. And in fact, he's saying that we should deploy soldiers to the highways.
I'm saying he's playing to the gallery. He's playing to the gallery. You cannot go to the world stage. The world has become a village. Everybody knows what is happening everywhere. Some governments, foreign governments, know better than we citizens of this country as far as the security situation is concerned.
In fact, they've always known because they colonized us, so they know the creeks in and out.
Exactly.
But I want to quickly ask you on the pronouncements, and because it's been steady, you talked about the grazing bill and things like that, but there's been a steady pronouncement trail of Professor Ango Abdullahi. 1 minute of this as we wrap up. His pronouncements. Since the time of the grazing bill, Professor Ango Abdullahi's pronouncements. What's your take on that?
I think it's very unfortunate that somebody of the status and caliber of Professor Ango Abdullahi, would be making the kind of utterances that he's been quoted to have made. It's very unfortunate. And I make bold to say that they are irresponsible statements, which rather than, de-escalate tension, do the opposite of it. So it's very unfortunate. I get out of my elements, when I hear people, of that status, rather than, contribute meaningfully to bringing peace and tranquility, amongst the various ethnic groups, are rather making pronouncements to fire the situations up.
All right, we'll say a big thank you to you, Ayo Lijadu, for being here. It's time now for a short break. When we come back, we'll have Joe Wokedi to discuss NAS warnings to South African government on the killing of Nigerians in their country. So stay with us, we'll be right back.